If we could start with you explaining your distinctive new look.
All right. Well, this is, I wish I could say this is all my own work, but people come up to me and say, how long did it take you to grow your hair? I say 10 hours, because it's hair extensions, and it's for the next film I'm doing. I did a film a few years ago called Underworld, and we're about to do Underworld 3 in New Zealand in about 2 weeks' time, I think now. So I had to have the hair put in and grow the beard and get in training, and I've had a personal trainer whipping me into shape and on a diet, and so Christmas has been a little bit miserable. No sweets and chocolates.
What about the release of the film Frost Nixon? I know that's the one you've been working on most recently.
Yeah, I did the play of Frost Nixon for about 15 months in London and then in New York on Broadway. And then as soon as I finished doing the play on Broadway, then we went off to LA and made the movie of it. Ron Howard directed it. And we finished that about about 2 months ago now, I think. And that'll be out, I think, around September time next year, 2008. I know Ron, the director, wants it to come out before the election in America, but the studio, which is Universal, want it to come out a bit later in the year because people are hoping it'll be in a sort of awards type film, and so the later in the year you release a film, the more chance there is of people remembering it when it comes to awards time. So I guess I think it'll be between September, October, something like that.
Once you finished Underworld 3, I gather you then start working on a film about Brian Clough.
That's right, yeah. There was a book by a man called David Peace called The Damned United, which is a novel about when Brian Clough managed Leeds United for 44 days. And Peter Morgan, who wrote The Queen and Frost Nixon, has done an adaptation of the book and adapted it for screen. And so I'm going to be playing Brian Clough in that. I'll have to put a little bit of weight back on again, have the hair cut off, and brush up my footballing skills. And then we're going to film that in Leeds and Derby. I think we start filming April 28th.
Played a lot of real-life characters, and you're obviously going to play more. Is that something you get a kick out of, or is it just pure coincidence?
Well, I suppose the first time I played a real-life character was when I played Blair in a TV film called The Deal, which Peter Morgan wrote, and Stephen Frears directed, and that was the first time I'd ever done it, and it was sort of, I guess, the first time that a drama had been done about real life characters, contemporary characters in politics, certainly, and it wasn't a satire or a comedy, it was a drama, and I loved doing that. And then I guess I developed a relationship then with Peter Morgan and Stephen Frears, which we then went on to do The Queen together as well. And then with Peter wrote Frost Nixon, and he's written the Clough film. So it's mainly down to my relationship with Peter. But then I think once you start doing that kind of thing, other people then, if they're doing films about real life characters, have you in mind as a possibility. So that's how the Kenneth Williams film Fantabulosa came about. And now I've been sent a few other films of real people. But it's not just something I want to do, regardless of what the script is like. It's first and foremost, it's about whether I think it's a good script and if I think the character is going to be challenging and if I think I've got a chance of doing it. So I love doing it. I find it challenges me and pushes me and stops me from being typecast in a way, because each character is so unique and different, and it's scary because that people are going to be watching it familiar with the character that you're playing and expecting you to be like them. But if you can't just give them an impersonation, you have to tell a story and take the audience on a journey with the character. So I really enjoy the challenge.
What was David Frost's reaction to your portrayal of him on stage? I gather he's been to see it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, well, David came to see it originally at the Donmar Theatre, which is a very small theatre. And he came to one of the previews before we'd even opened officially. And I'd not met him up until that point, because I sort of don't like to meet the people I'm playing, if I can meet them, if they're alive, until I've sort of got a handle on the character and what I'm doing in it. So I hadn't met him up until that point, and then I met him in the bar afterwards, and I think he was very nervous about it. And as you would be if someone was doing a performance of you on stage, then or on film, you'd be quite nervous about how it was going to come across. But he's been incredibly supportive and behind the whole thing. And I think there's a few things that he's not so happy about because it's a fairly warts and all performance, and a few things that are not necessarily, as he would say, true. He doesn't really remember them happening the way that they happen in the play and the film. But in spite of all that, he knows that it's drama and it's good storytelling, and it's ultimately it's good for him because it reminds people of his greatest moment, and and I think he is financially doing quite well out of it. I hope anyway. So he's been very supportive, and in fact, when we were doing the film of it, I think it was the sort of last but one day of shooting, and my mum and dad were visiting at the time, and they came down on the set, and coincidentally David happened to be there that day as well. So my mum and dad met David as well, which was great.
Moving away from your work, you've got a bit of a party going on here today. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, well, we're here at Blanco's in Port Talbot, and Clive, the owner, has very kindly put on this beautiful party for me. The idea was that over the last year or so, I've been very flatteringly asked to become affiliated to certain organisations, whether it's charitable organisations like Tree Trust Wales or Welsh College of Music and Drama, or Neath Port Talbot Hospital, and different organisations. And because I've been away for about a year, probably out of the country, I haven't really had a chance to meet everyone and say hello and find out what's going on. So we decided that it would be a good idea to maybe bring everyone together and have a little party and sort of say hello to each other. And it's sort of become this Christmas meet and greet extravaganza.
And just to finish, I know that you go into Sir Anthony's party at Markham Orangery, but I understand you've never met.
Well, we hadn't met until a couple of weeks ago. We'd spoken on the phone, and I'd received lovely cards and letters from him and that kind of thing. And we've been trying to meet up for a while, but the chance just hasn't come up. And then just 2 weeks before I came back to Wales, I was in Los Angeles, and we bumped into each other in a restaurant, and it was like meeting, an old friend. It was wonderful. He's a wonderful man, and I'm really excited about going to the party.
That's great. Thanks, Michael.
Pleasure.